The big meeting room on Space Station Alpha 7 was full of worried aliens. Admiral Vextar stood at the front, his 6 arms shaking a little as he held the data pad. His yellow eyes looked at all the different alien leaders sitting around the long table. "We need to talk about the humans," he said. His voice was not as strong as usual. The room got very quiet. Everyone knew that humans were new to space. They had only been flying between stars for 50 years. Most alien races had been doing this for thousands of years. "Their soldiers are not the problem," Admiral Vexitar said. "Yes, they fight hard. Yes, they are brave. But we can fight soldiers. We know how soldiers think. They shoot, they charge, they follow orders." He stopped talking and looked around the room. "But their engineers are different." Commander Zilnok from the Crystal Empire made a clicking sound with his mouth. "You are scared of repair workers?" he asked. "They fix machines. They build things. How can they be dangerous?" "Admiral." Vextar's skin changed from blue to dark purple. This meant he was very upset. "Let me tell you what happened at Rigel Station," he said. He pressed a button and a big screen showed pictures. 3 months ago, we had a small fight with humans near Rigel Station. Our ships surrounded their base. We had 50 warships. They had 10 small ships and 1 space station. The pictures showed the space battle. The human ships looked very small next to the big alien ships. We told them to give up," Admiral Vextar continued. "We said we would let them live if they stopped fighting. But they said no. They said they needed 3 days to think about it." "3 days?" asked General Morcax from the Steel Claws. "Why did you give them 3 days?" "Because we are not monsters," Admiral Vextar said. "We follow the war rules. We give time for surrender talks." He pressed the button again. New pictures appeared on the screen. On day 1, nothing happened. On day 2, their engineers came out of the station. Just 5 humans in work clothes. They had toolboxes and some small machines. Our sensors said the machines were not weapons. Everyone in the room was listening carefully now. The engineers floated around our ships in small work pods. They said they wanted to fix some broken parts on our ships. They said it was a gift, to show they wanted peace. Commander Zilnok laughed. "And you let them?" "Our ships had some small problems," Admiral Vextar said. "Nothing important. Some scratches, some loose plates, some old rust. The humans said they could fix everything, for free. Our engineers said it would be safe to let them work." The room was very quiet now. Everyone could tell this story would not end well. The human engineers worked for 2 days. They were very nice. They smiled and said thank you. They fixed everything they said they would fix. Our ships looked better, then new. Admiral Vextar's skin turned almost black now. On day 3, we told the humans to surrender. They said no. So we tried to attack their station. He pressed the button one more time. The screen showed something that made everyone in the room make scared sounds. Our ships would not move forward. The engines worked fine. The power was good, but we could only fly backward, away from the human station. "That is impossible," said General Morcax. "The human engineers had put tiny changes in our hull plates," Admiral Vexitar explained. "Changes so small our sensors could not see them. But these changes made our ships push away from each other when we tried to fly in the same direction." Everyone was very quiet. "It gets worse," Admiral Vextar said. "When we tried to turn our ships around, the changes made our navigation systems think up was down and left was right. Half our fleet flew into each other. The other half flew away into deep space and got lost." The screen showed alien ships spinning and crashing into each other. It looked very bad. "How many ships did you lose?" asked Commander Zilnok. "All of them," Admiral Vextar said quietly. "The humans did not fire one shot. Their engineers just smiled and waved goodbye as we flew away." General Morcax stood up. "This is just one story. Maybe your engineers made mistakes." Admiral Vextar looked at him with tired eyes. "This is not just one story. Last month, the Bone Fleet tried to attack a human mining ship. One mining ship, with 12 people on it. The humans said they needed time to evacuate." "What happened?" someone asked. The human engineers asked if they could borrow some metal from the Bone Fleet ships. They said they needed it to fix their engines. The Bone Fleet said yes because the humans were giving up anyway. Admiral Vextar looked very old and tired now. 3 hours later, the human mining ship flew away. All 40 ships of the Bone Fleet were stuck together in one big metal ball. The humans had used the borrowed metal to weld all the ships together while the crews were sleeping. No one said anything for a long time. The humans did not hurt anyone. Admiral Vexitar continued. They left air holes so the crews could breathe. They left communication systems so the crews could call for help. But it took 6 weeks to cut all the ships apart. Commander Zilnok was not laughing anymore. What do you want us to do? Admiral Vextar put down his datapad. I got a message this morning. The humans have a problem at Kepler 442b. The Krillian Empire has surrounded their mining colony. The humans are asking for help. So we help them, said General Morcax. We send ships? No, Admiral Vextar said. The humans said something strange. They said, please send engineers, not soldiers. They said they have a plan. The room got very cold and quiet. I think, Admiral Vextar said slowly, we should tell the Krillian Empire to leave that place right now, before the human engineers arrive. You want us to warn our enemies? Asked Commander Zilnok. Admiral Vextar looked at all the alien leaders. The Krillians are not our enemies today. Today they are just another group that does not understand what human engineers can do. Tomorrow they might be our friends who learned the hard way. He turned off the screen and picked up his papers. Meeting finished, he said. I need to send a message to Admiral Mordak of the Krillian Empire. I will tell him that if he sees human engineers coming his way, he should run. Very fast. Very far. As all the aliens left the meeting room, they were all thinking the same thing. Human soldiers were dangerous because they carried guns. But human engineers were much more dangerous because they carried ideas. And ideas everyone knew could change everything. The planet Kepler 442b looked very small from space. It was brown and rocky with no oceans. But deep under the ground there were rare metals that humans needed for their spaceships. The mining colony had been working there for 2 years with no problems. Until yesterday, Admiral Mordak of the Krillian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship. Through the big window he could see his fleet of 60 ships surrounding the planet. Each ship was exactly where it needed to be. No ship could get in or out without his permission. Perfect, he said to himself. The Krillian Empire was famous for making perfect battle plans. They never made mistakes. His communication officer walked up to him. Sir, we got a message from someone called Admiral Vextar. He says we should leave this place right now. Admiral Mordak laughed. Vextar is old and scared. He sees danger where there is none. What can 1,200 human miners do to 60 warships? The communication officer looked worried. He said something about human engineers, sir. Engineers? Admiral Mordak laughed even louder. Engineers fix broken machines. They are not soldiers. Tell Admiral Vextar that the Krillian Empire does not run away from repair workers. Down on the planet, the human miners were not happy. The Krillian ships had been blocking all traffic for 3 days. No supply ships could come in. No people could leave. Colony Director Bei Jinwoo looked at his communication screen. He had sent many messages asking for help. Finally, someone had answered. Help is coming, the message said. Engineers are on the way. Bei Jinwoo smiled for the first time in 3 days. He knew what that meant. He called all the miners to the main meeting room. Everyone listen, he said. We are going to be fine. The engineers are coming. Old miner Park Sung-ho raised his hand. What can engineers do against 60 warships? Bei Jinwoo's smile got bigger. You will see. In space, far from the blockade, a small cargo ship was flying toward Kepler 442b. The ship was called Ingenuity. It did not look dangerous. It looked like any other cargo ship. Old, slow, and peaceful. Captain Nam Ji-won sat in the pilot's seat. She was reading reports about the Krillian blockade. 60 ships, she said to herself. They really want to make sure no one gets through. Behind her, 4 people were working at a big table covered with papers and small machines. These were the engineers. Chief Engineer Lee Minho was the oldest. He had gray hair and quiet eyes. He was looking at pictures of the Krillian ships. "Quantum lock positioning system," he said. "Very advanced." Engineer Choi Hye-jin was younger with short, black hair. She was good with engines and flying systems. "Each ship stays in perfect position compared to all the other ships," she said. "If one ship moves, all the other ships move to keep the perfect shape." Engineer Yoon Dae-sung was tall and thin. He knew everything about metals and materials. "The system uses gravity fields to keep the ships exactly where they need to be," he added. Engineer Han Yuri was the youngest. She had long hair and was very smart about quantum physics. "It is like a big 3D puzzle where all the pieces hold each other in place," she explained. Captain Nam Ji-won turned around in her chair. "So, how do we get through?" The four engineers looked at each other and smiled. "We don't get through," said Lee Min-ho. "We make them let us through." The cargo ship Ingenuity reached the edge of the Krillian blockade 2 hours later. Immediately, warning messages started coming from the alien ships. "Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted space," said a voice with a strange accent. "Turn around now or we will destroy you." Captain Nam Ji-won pressed the communication button. "This is Captain Nam Ji-won of the cargo ship Ingenuity. We have supplies for the mining colony. We request permission to pass." "Permission denied," came the quick answer. "No ships may pass." "We understand," Captain Nam Ji-won said in a calm voice. "But we have a problem with our ship. Our engines are making strange noises. Can we please send our repair team to look at your ships? Maybe we can trade repairs for passage." On the Krillian flagship, Admiral Mordak looked at his officers. "They want to repair our ships?" "Yes, sir," said the communication officer. "They say their engines are broken and they need to learn from our better technology." Admiral Mordak thought about this. His ships were perfect, but they had been in space for many days. Some small repairs might be good, and it would be amusing to watch the primitive humans try to understand Krillian technology. "Tell them they can send a small repair team," he said, "but only 3 people, and they must carry no weapons." "Thank you so much," Captain Nam Ji-won said when she got the message. "We will send our best engineers." She turned off the communication and looked at the 4 engineers. "You heard him. Only 3 people." Lee Min-ho stood up. "Choi Hye-jin and Yoon Dae-sung will come with me. Han Yuri will stay here and help you with the ship." "What if they find out what you are really doing?" Captain Nam Ji-won asked. "They will not find out," said Lee Min-ho. "We are just going to fix a few small problems." An hour later, a tiny shuttle left the Ingenuity and flew toward the Krillian flagship. Inside were 3 humans with toolboxes and friendly smiles. Admiral Mordak watched the shuttle land in his ship's docking bay. 3 humans with toolboxes," he said to his first officer. "This will be entertaining." The 3 engineers walked into the Krillian ship. Everything was very clean and organized. The walls were silver metal and the floors were polished stone. "Welcome to the flagship Domination," said the Krillian officer who met them. "I am Commander Yexpol. What repairs do you need to make?" Lee Min-ho bowed politely. "Thank you for letting us visit. We noticed some very small problems with your hull plating. Nothing dangerous, but we can fix them if you want." Commander Yexpol looked confused. "Hull plating problems? Our sensors show no problems." "Oh, they are very small," said Choi Hye-jin with a smile. "Just some tiny scratches and small loose bolts. Your ships are so advanced that your sensors probably think these problems are too small to worry about. But we can make your ships look perfect again," added Yoon Dae-sung. "It is the least we can do to thank you for letting us see your amazing technology." Commander Yexpol felt proud. These humans clearly understood how superior Krillian ships were. "Very well," he said. "You may make small repairs, but you will be watched at all times." "Of course," said Lee Min-ho. "We understand." The 3 engineers were taken to the outside of the ship where they could work on the hull. Krillian guards watched them carefully as they took out small tools and began working. To the guards, it looked very boring. The humans just polished some scratches and tightened some bolts. They worked slowly and carefully, They smiled and said thank you many times. After 2 hours, they moved to the next ship, then the next ship, then the next. They are very polite, one guard said to another. Yes, said the second guard, and very slow. At this rate, it will take them days to check all our ships. The guards did not know that slow and careful was exactly what the human engineers wanted to be. Back on the Ingenuity, Han-Yuri was working with Captain Nam Ji-won. They were watching the Krillian fleet very carefully with special sensors. The quantum lock system is working perfectly, Han-Yuri said. Every ship is exactly where it should be. Is that good or bad? Asked Captain Nam Ji-won. Han-Yuri smiled. It is perfect for what we need to do. On the Krillian flagship, Admiral Mordak was getting reports from all his ships. The human engineers have visited 15 ships so far, his first officer said. They have caused no problems, they just clean and polish. Good, said Admiral Mordak. Let them play with their little tools. Tomorrow, we will send them away, and they can tell other humans how powerful the Krillian Empire is. Admiral Mordak did not know that tomorrow would be very different from what he expected. It was the second day of repairs. The 3 human engineers had visited 30 ships so far. They worked slowly and smiled at everyone they met. The Krillian guards were getting bored watching them polish and clean. On the cargo ship Ingenuity, Engineer Han-Yuri was studying numbers on her computer screen. Captain Nam Ji-won brought her a cup of coffee. How is it going? The captain asked. Perfect, Han-Yuri said. The quantum lock system is working exactly like we thought it would. She pointed to the screen. It showed a 3D picture of all 60 Krillian ships. Each ship was a small dot connected to other dots by thin lines. See these lines? Han-Yuri explained. Each line shows how one ship's position depends on another ship's position. If ship number 1 moves a little bit, ship number 5 has to move to keep the perfect balance. Captain Nam Ji-won looked at the picture. It looks like a spider web. Yes, Han-Yuri smiled. And like a spider web, if you touch it in the right place, the whole thing moves. Meanwhile, on the Krillian flagship, Lee Min-ho was working on the outside of the ship with his 2 teammates. They were installing small devices that looked like normal repair patches. How many more? Whispered Choi Hye-jin as she handed him a tool. Just a few, Lee Min-ho whispered back. We need to visit at least 40 ships to make this work. Yoon Dae-sung was using a special scanner to check the metal hull. The quantum field generators are right where we expected, he said quietly. This should be easy. A Krillian guard walked over to them. What are you doing now? He asked. We are checking for metal fatigue, Lee Min-ho said with a friendly smile. Your ships are so advanced, but even the best ships need small repairs after being in space for a long time. The guard looked at the small device Lee Min-ho was installing. What is that? It is a hull strengthener, Choi Hye-jin explained. It makes the metal stronger so your ship will last longer. It is very small so it will not change how your ship flies. The guard nodded and walked away. He did not know that the hull strengthener was actually a tiny gravity field generator. By the end of the second day, the human engineers had visited 42 ships. They had been polite and helpful the whole time. They fixed small scratches, tightened loose bolts, and installed hull strengtheners on every ship they visited. Admiral Mordak was happy. These humans are very respectful, he told his officers. They understand that Krillian technology is superior to their primitive ships. Should we let them continue tomorrow? Asked his first officer. Yes, Admiral Mordak said. Let them finish their work. Then we will send them away. They can tell other humans that the Krillian Empire shows mercy to those who show proper respect. That night, on the Ingenuity, the 4 engineers had a secret meeting. All the devices are working, reported Lee Min-ho. We have 42 gravity field generators installed. The quantum lock system is starting to adjust, said Han-Yuri, looking at her computer. The ships are moving very slowly into new positions. How slowly? Asked Captain Nam Ji-won. So slowly that their sensors cannot detect the movement, Choi Hye-jin explained. It will take about 6 more hours for them to reach the new positions. And then? Asked the captain. Yoon Dae-sung smiled. Then we will have what we need. What do we need? Captain Nam Ji-won asked. Lee Min-ho walked to the window and looked at the Krillian fleet. We need them to build us a door. The captain looked confused, but she trusted her engineers. How long do we wait? Until morning, Han Yuri said. By then, everything will be ready. While the humans slept, the Krillian ships slowly moved through space. The quantum lock system was working perfectly. It detected tiny changes in gravity and adjusted each ship's position to maintain perfect balance. The system did not know that the tiny changes in gravity were coming from the human devices. It just did its job, moving each ship to the most mathematically perfect position. Admiral Mordak woke up early the next morning. He looked out the window at his fleet. Everything looked normal. His ships were still in perfect formation around the planet, but something felt different. Navigation officer, he called. Show me our current formation. The navigation officer pressed some buttons. A 3D picture appeared on the main screen. It showed all 60 ships in their positions around the planet. Admiral Mordak stared at the picture. The formation was still perfect. In fact, it was more perfect than before. But the shape was different. Why are we in a different formation? He asked. The navigation officer looked confused. Sir, we are in the same formation. The quantum lock system has not changed anything. Look at the picture. Admiral Mordak pointed at the screen. Yesterday we were in a sphere around the planet. Now we are in... What is this shape? The science officer studied the picture. It appears to be a ring, sir, with gaps. Admiral Mordak felt cold. Gaps? What gaps? There are 6 openings in our formation, the science officer said. But the quantum lock system says this is the most perfect formation possible. It says this formation is more stable than our original sphere. That is impossible, Admiral Mordak shouted. The sphere formation has been used by the Krillian Empire for 200 years. It is perfect. Yes, sir, the science officer said, nervously. But according to our computers, this new formation is more perfect. On the Ingenuity, Han Yuri was watching the same information on her computer. It worked, she said happily. They are exactly where we need them to be. Captain Nam Ji-won looked at her screen. Are those openings? 6 openings, confirmed Choi Hae-jin. Each one big enough for a ship to fly through. But how? Captain Nam Ji-won asked. How did you make them change their formation? Lee Min-ho sat down next to her. We did not make them change anything, he said. We just gave their system better information. Better information? The quantum lock system thinks its job is to make the most perfect formation possible, Yoon Dae-sung explained. Yesterday, the most perfect formation was a sphere, but our gravity field generators gave the system new data about local space conditions. So now the system thinks the most perfect formation is a ring with openings, Han Yuri added. And the system is right. This new formation is more stable than the old one. More stable for what? Captain Nam Ji-won asked. The 4 engineers looked at each other and smiled. More stable for letting ships fly through, Lee Min-ho said. Captain Nam Ji-won stared at them. You turned their blockade into a gateway. Yes, said Choi Hae-jin. And the best part is, their own system did all the work. We just helped it find a better solution. On the Krillian flagship, Admiral Mordak was getting angry. I want to know why our formation changed, he shouted. Sir, said his first officer carefully, the quantum lock system says this formation is superior. Maybe we should trust our technology. Our technology does not make mistakes, Admiral Mordak said. Something has gone wrong. Should we manually move the ships back to sphere formation? Asked the navigation officer. No, Admiral Mordak said quickly. If we break the quantum lock manually, the whole system could fail. We could lose control of the entire fleet. He was trapped. The system was working perfectly, but it was not doing what he wanted, and he could not turn it off without risking disaster. Sir, The communication officer called out. "We are getting a message from the human cargo ship. Put it on the main screen," Admiral Mordak ordered. Captain Nam Ji-wan appeared on the screen. She was smiling. "Good morning, Admiral Mordak. Thank you for opening a path for us. We will be flying through opening number 3 in about 10 minutes. Opening number 3? Admiral Mordak looked at his formation picture. There was indeed a clear path marked as opening number 3. "Wait," he shouted. "We did not open any path. Our blockade is still in effect." Captain Nam Ji-wan looked confused. "But Admiral, your own navigation system is broadcasting that you have 6 open flight paths. We just picked the one that looked most convenient." Admiral Mordak looked at his officers. "Are we broadcasting flight path information?" The communication officer checked his instruments. "Yes, sir. The quantum lock system is automatically broadcasting safe flight paths to prevent collisions with our formation." "Turn it off." "I cannot, sir. It is part of the quantum lock safety system. If I turn it off, ships might fly into our formation by accident." Admiral Mordak felt like screaming. His perfect blockade had somehow turned into a traffic control system that was helping the humans get through. "Sir," his first officer said quietly. "What do we do?" Admiral Mordak watched the human cargo ship flying toward opening number 3. He could attack the ship, but that would break the war rules. The humans had not attacked him. They had just asked politely to fly through, and somehow his own ships were letting them through. "Let them go," he said finally. "But find out how they did this. I want to know how 3 engineers with toolboxes defeated our entire fleet." The cargo ship Ingenuity flew through opening number 3 without any problems. Admiral Mordak watched it happen on his main screen. His perfect blockade had become a highway for the humans. "Sir," his science officer said nervously, "I found something strange in our sensor logs." "What now?" Admiral Mordak asked. He was getting tired of strange things. The gravity readings around our ships changed slowly over the past 2 days. Very small changes. So small that our computers thought they were normal space fluctuations. Admiral Mordak felt his stomach drop. "Show me." The screen showed a timeline of gravity readings. For the first day, everything was normal. Then tiny spikes started appearing wherever the human engineers had worked. "Those devices they installed," Admiral Mordak said slowly. "They were not hull strengtheners?" "No, sir," the science officer confirmed. "They were gravity field generators. Very small ones." "How small?" "Each one produces a gravity field about as strong as a small moon," the science officer explained. "Individually, they are harmless. But together they gave false information to our quantum lock system," Admiral Mordak finished. "The system thought it needed to adjust our formation to account for new gravitational conditions." His first officer looked worried. "What do we do now, sir?" Before Admiral Mordak could answer, his communication officer spoke up. "Sir, we are getting another message from the planet's surface." "Put it through," Admiral Mordak said. A new human face appeared on the screen. It was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. "Hello, Admiral Mordak," the man said politely. "My name is Lee Min-ho. I am the chief engineer who worked on your ships." Admiral Mordak's face turned purple with anger. "You? What did you do? To my fleet?" "We improved it," Lee Min-ho said with a small smile. "Your quantum lock system is now running at 97.3% efficiency instead of the previous 84.6% efficiency. Your fleet formation is more stable and uses 12% less energy to maintain." "I do not care about efficiency," Admiral Mordak shouted. "You destroyed my blockade." "No, sir," Lee Min-ho said calmly. "We made your blockade better. Your ships are now in the most mathematically perfect formation possible given the local space conditions. Local space conditions that you created." "Yes," Lee Min-ho admitted. "We did add some small gravitational variations, but we did not break any rules. We did not damage your ships. We did not attack your fleet. We just gave your system better information to work with." Admiral Mordak was so angry he could barely speak. "Better information?" "Your quantum lock system was designed to create perfect formations," Lee Min-ho explained. but it was working with incomplete data about local gravitational fields. We provided the missing data. You tricked my system. We helped your system do its job better, Lee Min-ho corrected. Your system is working perfectly. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Admiral Mordak looked at his officers. They all looked confused and worried. Can we remove the devices? He asked his science officer. Not without shutting down the quantum lock system, the science officer replied. The devices are now part of the gravitational calculation matrix. If we remove them suddenly, the system will think there is a massive gravitational anomaly and will scatter our fleet to avoid collision. How long would it take to safely remove them? About 6 hours of careful recalibration, sir. Admiral Mordak turned back to the screen where Lee Min-ho was waiting patiently. 6 hours? Admiral Mordak said. You will give me 6 hours to fix this. Of course, Lee Min-ho said. But I should mention something important. What? The gravitational fields we created are not permanent. They will naturally decay over time. Admiral Mordak felt hope. How long? About 47 minutes from now, Lee Min-ho said. 47 minutes? Then my blockade will return to normal? Lee Min-ho looked uncomfortable. Well, not exactly normal. What do you mean? When the gravitational fields decay, your quantum lock system will detect a sudden change in local space conditions. It will immediately try to adjust your formation to compensate. Admiral Mordak felt cold again. Adjust how? Your ships will automatically move to disperse formation, Lee Min-ho explained. It is a safety feature to prevent collisions when gravitational conditions change suddenly. Disperse formation means your ships will spread out over a very large area, Lee Min-ho said, probably several light hours apart. It will take you about 3 days to gather your fleet back together. Admiral Mordak stared at the human engineer. You are telling me that in 47 minutes my fleet will automatically scatter itself across half the solar system? 46 minutes now, Lee Min-ho corrected. But do not worry. Your ships will be perfectly safe. The quantum lock system will ensure no collisions occur. And there is nothing I can do to stop this? You could manually override the quantum lock system, Lee Min-ho suggested. But that would require shutting down your formation control entirely. Your ships would have to maintain positions manually. Admiral Mordak knew his pilots were not good enough to maintain formation manually. They had always relied on the automatic system. There is another option, Lee Min-ho said. What? You could leave. Admiral Mordak blinked. Leave? If your fleet jumps to hyperspace before the gravitational fields decay, the quantum lock system will recalibrate during the jump. When you come out of hyperspace, your ships will be in normal formation again. You want me to abandon the blockade? I want you to make a choice, Lee Min-ho said. You can stay here and watch your fleet scatter automatically, or you can leave now and keep your fleet together. Admiral Mordak looked around his bridge. All his officers were looking at him, waiting for orders. Sir, his first officer said quietly, if our fleet scatters, it will take days to reform. Other enemies might attack while we are dispersed. But if we leave, the humans win, Admiral Mordak said. Sir, his science officer added, our mission was to prevent human ships from reaching the colony, but human ships are already reaching the colony through the openings in our formation. The blockade has already failed. Admiral Mordak closed his eyes. The human engineer had beaten him completely, not with weapons or force, but with mathematics and clever thinking. How long do we have? He asked. 44 minutes, Lee Min-ho said from the screen. Admiral Mordak made his decision. All ships, he announced over the fleet communication system, prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We are leaving this system. Thank you for being reasonable, Lee Min-ho said. I hope your ships serve you well for many years. The improvements we made should help them last longer. Improvements, Admiral. Mordak repeated bitterly. Yes, Lee Min-ho said. We really did improve your ships. The hull strengtheners will make them 8% more resistant to damage. Consider it a gift. Admiral Mordak realized the human was serious. They had actually improved his ships while defeating his fleet. Why? He asked. Because we are engineers, Lee Min-ho said simply. We fix things. We make things better. That is what we do. The screen went dark. A few minutes later, the entire Krillian fleet jumped to hyperspace and disappeared. On the planet's surface, the human miners cheered as they watched the alien ships vanish. Supply ships immediately started arriving through the openings the engineers had created. Colony Director Bei Jin-woo called Lee Min-ho on his radio. Chief Engineer, the fleet is gone. How did you do it? We did not fight them, Lee Min-ho replied. We just helped their technology work better. Better for us, Bei Jin-woo laughed. Better for everyone, Lee Min-ho corrected. Their ships really are improved now, and they learned something important. What did they learn? Lee Min-ho looked up at the stars where the Krillian fleet had disappeared. They learned that when you let human engineers look at your technology, you should expect it to start working in ways you never imagined. 3 months later, the story of what happened at Kepler 442b had spread across the entire galaxy. Every alien race had heard different versions of the tale. Some said the human engineers had magical powers. Others said they had secret weapons that could control gravity. A few claimed the humans could talk to machines and make them disobey their owners. But the truth was much simpler and much more frightening. On the space station, Nexus Prime, alien traders gathered in bars and told stories about the humans. Captain Zekthar of the Merchant Guild was buying drinks for anyone who would listen to his version. I heard they turned 60 warships into a transportation system, he said, waving his forearms dramatically, without firing a single shot. That is nothing, said Pilot Vexman from the Crystal Consortium. My cousin told me that human engineers once made an entire asteroid belt reorganize itself into a perfect sphere. The humans needed a new planet, so they just asked the asteroids to form one. Neither story was true, but they were close enough to make everyone nervous. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Park So-young was reading reports in her office at Space Command headquarters. The Kepler 442b incident had been officially classified as a successful engineering intervention. Her aide, Lieutenant Kim Dae-ho, brought her a cup of tea. Admiral, we are getting requests from 12 different alien governments. They all want to know if we would be willing to send engineers to help them with various problems. What kind of problems? Admiral Park asked. The hegemony wants help with their traffic control systems. The Crystal Empire needs assistance with asteroid mining efficiency. The Steel Claws are asking if we can help them optimize their fleet formations. Admiral Park smiled. They all want to hire our engineers after spending months being afraid of them? It appears so, ma'am. They seem to think that if human engineers can defeat a blockade without fighting, maybe they can solve other impossible problems too. They are probably right, Admiral Park said. What did Chief Engineer Lee Min-ho say about the requests? He said he would be happy to help, but only with peaceful projects. No weapons, no military applications. Good. Schedule meetings with the governments that want help with civilian projects, but make sure they understand our conditions. What conditions, ma'am? First, our engineers work independently. No one tells them how to solve problems. Second, they have access to all relevant information and systems. Third, if they improve something, the improvements stay. Lieutenant Kim Dae-ho wrote down the conditions. The alien governments might not like that third condition. Then they do not. Get our help, Admiral Park said simply. Our engineers do not just fix problems temporarily. They make things better permanently. Back on Kepler 442b, Chief Engineer Lee Min-ho was working on a new project. The mining colony was expanding, and they needed better power systems. His team had grown since the incident with the Krillian Empire. Engineers Choi Hee-jin, Yoon Dae-sung, and Han Yuri were still with him. But now they had 20 more engineers from Earth who wanted to learn from the famous team. Chief, called Engineer Park Jae-sung, one of the new arrivals. I do not understand how you knew the quantum lock system would rearrange the ships the way you wanted. Lee Min-ho looked up from his work. We did not know exactly what would happen, he admitted. We just knew that if we gave the system better information, it would find a better solution. But what if it had found a different solution? Then we would have worked with whatever solution it found, Choi Hee-jin answered. Engineers adapt. We do not force our ideas on systems. We help systems find their own best answers. Young engineer. Song Mi-young raised her hand. But the Krillian system was designed for military purposes. How did you know it would create openings instead of making the blockade stronger? Han Yuri smiled. Because all systems want to be efficient. Military, systems, civilian systems, natural systems. They all follow the same basic rules of physics and mathematics. If you understand those rules, you can predict how systems will behave. Even alien systems? Asked Park Jae-sung. Especially alien systems, Yoon Dae-sung said. Alien engineers often make their systems very complex to show how smart they are. Complex systems have more ways to be optimized. Lee Min-ho nodded. Human engineers learn to work with simple tools and basic materials. We have to be creative. Alien engineers often have better tools and materials, so they do not have to be as creative. That makes their systems predictable. Is that why other species are afraid of human engineers? Asked Song Mi-young. They are not afraid of us, Lee Min-ho corrected. They are afraid of what we represent. What do we represent? Change, said Choi Hee-jin. Most alien species build things to last forever without changes. They want stability and predictability. But human engineers see everything as something that can be improved, added Han Yuri. We look at any system and immediately start thinking of ways to make it work better. And better does not always mean the same thing to everyone, Yoon Dae-sung finished. The young engineers looked confused, so Lee Min-ho explained further. When we helped the Krillian quantum lock system, we made it more efficient and more stable. Those were genuine improvements. But we also made it work in a way that was better for us, instead of better for them. So you tricked them? No, Lee. Min-ho said firmly. We gave them exactly what they asked for. They wanted a perfect formation. We helped them achieve a truly perfect formation. It was not our fault that their definition of perfect was incomplete. Engineer Park Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. Chief, are we really better engineers than the aliens? Or do we just think differently? Both, Lee Min-ho said. We are not necessarily smarter than alien engineers, but we approach problems differently. Most alien engineers try to solve problems by building bigger, stronger, or more complex systems. And human engineers? Asked Song Mi-young. We try to solve problems by understanding what the problem really wants, Choi Hye-jin answered. Instead of fighting against a problem, we work with it. Like the Krillian blockade, Han Yuri added. We did not fight the blockade. We helped it become what it really wanted to be, an efficient traffic management system. The young engineers laughed, but Lee Min-ho looked serious. Remember, he said, our reputation in the galaxy is not based on being the strongest or the most advanced. It is based on being the most unpredictable and the most helpful at the same time. Helpful? Park Jae-sung asked. We really did improve the Krillian ships, Yoon Dae-sung explained. Those hull strengtheners will make their ships last longer and use less energy. Admiral Mordak probably hates us, but his ships are genuinely better now. That is the human way, Lee Min-ho concluded. We solve problems in ways that make things better for everyone, even when everyone does not realize it at first. 6 months later, the legend of human engineers had grown even larger. Alien civilizations across the galaxy had added new rules to their military and engineering protocols. When dealing with human engineers, assume any request for access to systems will result in permanent changes to those systems. Human engineers should be considered strategic assets, not technical support. If human engineers offer to help improve something, carefully consider whether you want that thing to work differently than intended. Remember, human engineers do not just fix problems, they fix the underlying causes of problems. This may result in solutions you did not expect or want. But perhaps the most important rule was the simplest. If you do not want something to change, do not let human engineers look at it. Back on Earth, Chief Engineer Lee Min-ho received a message from Admiral Mordak of the Krillian Empire. The message was short. Human Engineer Lee Min-ho, our ships have been operating at 23% higher efficiency since your modifications. Our enemies flee when they detect the improved energy signatures. Our maintenance costs have decreased by 31%. We still do not like what you did to our blockade, but we wanted to say thank you for making our ships better. Admiral Mordak. Lee Min-ho smiled and showed the message to his team. See, he said. Good engineering helps everyone in the end. Engineer Choi Hee-jin laughed. Even when they do not want to be helped? Especially then, Lee Min-ho replied. The best solutions are the ones people do not know they need until they have them. And across the galaxy, alien engineers began studying human techniques, trying to understand how such simple approaches could produce such dramatic results. Some succeeded in learning human methods. Others failed and returned to their traditional ways. But all of them remembered the lesson of Kepler 442b. When human engineers offer to help, the help will be real, permanent, and completely different from what you expected. And that, everyone agreed, was both the most wonderful and most terrifying thing about humans in the entire galaxy.